Kamala Harris is 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump, almost 80,000 votes ahead of her, with 3/4 of the vote, 74% of the estimated vote from the Badger State in. Battleground Georgia, Donald Trump is up 15.7%. Kamala Harris is 48.4%. Donald Trump more than 118,000 votes ahead of her, with an estimated 93% of the estimated vote in. Arizona, Donald Trump ahead there too with 49.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.3% of the vote. He is more than 7,500 votes ahead of her right now, but they still have about 48% of the vote to count, 52% of the estimated vote in. In Nevada, Donald Trump is in the lead with 73% of the vote. Kamala Harris is 26.2% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 10,000 vote, almost 11,000 vote lead. That is with only 2% of the estimated vote in. As we follow these crucial undecided races, we are already also getting closer to another poll closing. 4 more electoral votes are at stake in the next hour in the heat of the battle to reach 270. So every electoral vote counts. We're just minutes away from voting ending in the reliably blue state of Hawaii. Over to John King now at the Magic Wall. John.
So take a quick look. You just went through the numbers. Just want to look very quickly. These 3 states, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, will determine the fate of the Harris campaign, whether there's any chance that she can come back. As we wait to see those results, I just want to show you something. Bring it up. Remember January 6th. Donald Trump was finished. Even Republicans are running away from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is done as a national politician. I want to show you something. This is Trump overperforming his 2020 performance by 3% or more, right? This is a statewide vote. We're not done with some of these counts out here, so this will change a little bit. But Donald Trump overperforming 2020 after January 6, 2021. That's the statewide vote. Look at this. Just look at this when you go to full count. Look at how many counties across America, 994 of the 4,000 plus, 4,600 plus counties and townships, especially up this way, part of the country, they don't call them counties, they call them townships, but in nearly 1,000, 993 right now. This will change as we go through, but Donald Trump is overperforming, and look at where they are. He's mostly performing in red areas. His vote is getting higher in the areas where he wins elections. Yes, there are some blue places where he's overperforming, but just look at Battleground, Pennsylvania. Look at all these red counties, places that Trump wins, where he's overperforming by 3% or more what he did in 2020. Then you come out here, let's go up to Battleground, Michigan. These are the decisive states left on the board right now. Look at in the areas, those are his base areas. He's getting more. The same over here in Battleground, Wisconsin. So the former president of the United States, given up for dead, Jake, after January 6, 2021, is running stronger now than he did in the last campaign.
All right, John King, thank you so much. Every electoral vote counts, and 4 more are on the line right now as polling places are about to close in Hawaii, and we project Kamala Harris will win the state of Hawaii with its 4 electoral votes. Not a surprise. Hawaii, a reliably Democratic vote, but that does mean a pickup of 4 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has 230. He is 40 votes away from winning. Kamala Harris has 169 electoral votes. She is 101 votes away from the 270 needed to win. John King.
So Jake, let's look at the map where we are right now, and then we'll go through some of these battleground states where we're still waiting. But just look at the map right now. You see a lot of red, right? So let's look at the 2020 map. You see the blue, right? The blue wall states, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, right? Now watch, this is where we are now. 2024 looks a lot different than 2020. But at the moment, looks pretty similar to 2016. Donald Trump won the blue wall. Donald Trump won North Carolina. Donald Trump won Georgia. Donald Trump won Arizona. The only difference would be Hillary Clinton in 2016 did carry Nevada. Donald Trump leads there right now when you come back to 2024. But it's just, 2024. Let me come up here, do this, hit this, and you go there at 2024. So that's the one, it's just a dramatic change when you come here. And so Donald Trump is remaking the map again at the moment. And the question is there any way for Harris to come back? Again, we've given Donald Trump North Carolina. So let's see where we are in Georgia. If Donald Trump also carries Georgia, the vice president cannot afford to lose Pennsylvania. Yes, Nevada's out there, Arizona's out there, Michigan and Wisconsin are out there. 19. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So can she come back in Georgia to stop that from happening? She's limiting her, if he wins Georgia, her path is so limited. So it's 118,000 votes right now. In a state decided 4 years ago by 11,700 votes, Donald Trump with 93% that's an important number, of the vote counted is ahead by nearly 120,000 votes. So you're looking, this is where they would have to be. You can pick up votes elsewhere, but that's where most of the votes are. That's close to half of the state population, right in Atlanta, and the metropolitan area around it. So what's out there? Are there live outstanding votes out there? Well, let's take a look. The answer is yes. Let me get rid of the coloring so we don't have to see that. The answer is yes, they're out there. You're at the point now where you're talking about drawing to an inside straight flush, essentially. You need these votes to come in overwhelming numbers for you. But you do see, there's the mathematical possibility. This is why the Harris campaign is on the phone. This is why I assume Donald Trump has not come out yet to say anything, because he's hoping that this one comes off the board as well. You're looking at the math right there. It's possible. So we're waiting for more votes in Georgia. So then you come up, Jake, and we'll look at the blue wall states in a minute to see if any of the math is changing. But if you look at the map right now, you would so much rather be Donald Trump than the vice president.
All right, and we have a projection, John. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the Commonwealth of Virginia. Commonwealth of Virginia, with its 13 electoral votes, will go to the Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris. What does that mean for the electoral math? Let's take a look. With 270 electoral votes needed to win, Donald Trump is only 40 behind that with 230. Kamala Harris has 182 electoral votes. Let's bring you a key race alert. Where are we with all the states that we have not projected yet? Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 213,000 vote lead over her with 84% of the estimated vote in from Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Donald Trump up there, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 107,290 vote lead over Harris. But there's still about 55% of the vote that has not been counted in Michigan. A lot of votes to count in Michigan. Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51% of the vote, Kamala Harris 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 92,000 vote lead over Harris. That's with more than 3/4 of the votes counted in Wisconsin, 77% of the vote. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump up 50.7% to Harris's 48.4%. Donald Trump with a 118,838 vote lead over Harris, with 93%
From the
of the
Associated Press,
estimated vote in.
this is an election
In battleground Arizona,
2024
Donald Trump up
update. Live from Washington,
49.8%
here
to
is
Harris's
Mike Canard.
49.3%.
Welcome back. We are back to bring you some new AP race call updates. The Associated Press has declared Democrat Kamala Harris the winner of the states of Virginia and Hawaii. AP has also made determinations in 3 U.S. Senate contests, all of which have resulted in incumbents keeping their seats. They are Republican Ted Cruz in Texas, Democrat Mazie Hirono in Hawaii, and Democrat Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota. Back to the presidential race, again, you can take a look at the live voting map in the screen next to me, with the electoral vote totals now updated to 230 for Donald Trump and 205 for Kamala Harris. We will continue to bring you more AP race calls and election night updates throughout this evening. But for now, we will leave you with a live look at vote counting as it takes place in one of those battleground states, Wisconsin. Back with you soon.
Came in Philadelphia, and indeed they did. So now you're up to 76% estimate. This can change a little bit as more votes come in. But you see that, the vice president opening a healthy lead in Philadelphia, which is a building block of a Democratic win in Pennsylvania. The question is it enough? I just showed you Trump was leading. So 78%, 477,000 votes. If you go back 4 years ago, it's 81%, and it's 603,000 votes. Remember that. 81 and 603, 78 and 477. Can she move both numbers up when we get the final quarter of the vote? That's the challenge, because you need that math, forgive me, to overcome that. 168,000 votes in a state that was decided by 80,000 votes 4 years ago and 40,000 votes 4 years before that. That is a big lead in a tight state like Pennsylvania with 85% of the vote. So you're saying, is it just Philadelphia and the suburbs where there are outstanding votes? Again, if you're joining us late, the larger the circle, the more votes that are still outstanding to be counted, the color, the way the candidate, who's winning in that area at the moment. And so you still do right here. Philadelphia, Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County.
Hands in the air as soon as you come out. Side step to this side. Side step to the left. Both hands in the air. Stop. Turn around.
I say that, I'll say
Walk
it's
back
win.
towards me with your hands in the air.
Just keep them on. Keep them on.
Keep coming. Drop what's in your left hand. Drop it. Walk back towards me. Stop. Stop. Stay 2 steps backwards towards me. Stop. Don't move. Who else is in the car? Right here. You want to work on That's right there.
68%. As you can see, it's much more popular.
That's why I'm trying to call my mom to get it.
Would have to win it gangbusters, probably higher than the percentage she's getting so far. I just want to check it against President Biden. It's a little below President Biden. It seems pretty consistent. Is this one? Yes, in the right place. That's not very obvious. That's why I couldn't find it. Blood said turn red. Only 55% of the vote in. But if this is red at the end of the night, Donald Trump's going to win the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the more blue collar, more competitive, It used to be this was up to Democratic. The other the education divide is flipped out. Nothing in Delaware or Ohio. Only 55% of the vote in. Look at that, 50 to 49.
Have a local also he does show to have a warning on his DL for violent tendencies towards law enforcement.
And then you come out here.
Can you give him a copy of him for that one?
This is where the Trump is rushed up. So you're saying
We're getting it out of all now.
Mathematically, we can make the case. Common sense, you associate our while this election day,
We're back with you with breaking news with this alert that just moved on the AP wire. Republicans have won a U.S. Senate majority, seizing control of the chamber for the first time in 4 years. They were put over that mark after the AP declared Deb Fischer the winner of the U.S. Senate contest in the state of Nebraska. Again, this is an AP News alert that has just moved. We will be back with you with more information on all race calls and other updates on this election. See you soon.
The vice president is leading early on, then Donald Trump took the lead. He takes the lead sometimes in states when all these look at him. And again, you just find him, and he's at 67% here, and he's at 65% here. He's at 66% plus there. Not a lot of people, but when you've got 83 counties, and you're winning 60 or 70 of them, that's how it works. And he built it up there. Then overcome it with huge numbers of if you're in the Harris campaign, you're saying, okay, we have almost nothing, less than 20% from Detroit, right? So she's getting 62%, he has 88,000 votes. Check, you go back to 2020, again, we don't Michigan, he's getting 68, he gets 6,600,000. That's the Lord. When Wayne County gives us more votes, a huge number like that is the split, right? Donald Trump at 30%, that's Detroit and the suburbs around it. Donald Trump right now, it's only 20%.
1039, female is one, person to get off of her within 15 years from the address. They found on her that it was for a novel voice.
You can't see it all on this map.
She was legal for 15 months.
Detroit, is he doing better? Is Trump doing better? What? So far, maybe down.
Trying to say that.
Question two. Here, Democratic, right here. Those are two very important topics. 200,000 plus voted for Joe Biden 4 years ago. We don't have that granular detail just yet, but that was one of the big questions of the campaign. Spent a lot of time on my trips to the Wayne State campus, young voters, a lot of Maryland voters, Wayne State, and a lot of young progressive students at Wayne State, and they lose the youth vote there. A lot of good questions. I'm raising questions that we'll answer in more detail tomorrow, next week, and the week after that. We have final results, but if you're 158,000 votes ahead, only halfway in Michigan, that's the best.
Let's go to Wayne County right now. Let's go to Detroit. Let's go to
88,344.
Jake, there have been a lot of questions and some consternation as to why we haven't seen more data. We believe we have the answers here, quite specifically. And she said the reason is that Wayne County, in part, given all the scrutiny on this county as it impacts the outcome of the election in this state, is not reporting partial results. It's waiting until either all or the vast majority of those results in before it, in effect, gives that back and makes it public. And I just want to highlight one point that's going to happen in the next hour, perhaps even the next few minutes. A nondescript U-Haul van is going to drive in.
Traffic in one of them, I need to have traffic when they're ready.
Remaining outstanding absentee ballots in Detroit, part of Wayne County.
Charles, we got him. 8 John X-ray.
That's
And we'll be at Aviation, and Broadway.
absentee ballots outstanding, but the final outstanding votes in Detroit, part of Wayne County. So that truck comes through the door, they're going to tabulate those, and that gets us to the point where they're going to have, in effect, all the votes in Wayne County.
52 Mary 4590
Final figure through the vote could be the next.
When it
happens, that could be the point when you get everything back reported publicly.
All right, Jim Sciutto in Detroit, Wayne County. And you were noting that we don't have Wayne County to the granular level, that we can't see
I'm afraid to
Des Moines, and other places where there were a lot of uncompleted votes during the Democratic primary. Just to remind viewers, during the Democratic primaries as a protest of President Biden's support for the Netanyahu war on Hamas and Gaza, 100,000 Democrats voted presumably most of them as a protest for the
Yeah, absolutely. And most of them are located here in Wayne County and in Detroit.
North Carolina not letting us use their user location. Negative.
North and to the west. Most offices are there. They're very angry at the White House. And then the next one, four times, in this election, to go to the University of Michigan, people out there. Again, let's see what happens. It's at 66%, it's 10 hour University of Michigan. Again, big college campus, it tends to be very much popular for the rest of the population. You say, wow, 65% of the vote, 66 to round up, that's great. Oh my God, 73%. And the math, 157,000. Again, we got 30% of the votes still to come in, and well, maybe all the votes that are out are from the campus, and and it juices up the number of votes. If you look at that now, underperforming the President of the United States, and Donald Trump's at 32%, and at 26%. That's that gap holds it.
Because you actually always does it for you for that trip, but the permit was 1601 active, when active to the trade.
It's not that you're going to vote for them. They either were not going to vote for them, or they were Cornell West. I'm not sure Cornell West is on the ballot in Michigan, but
So it's going to be a black male with no shirt, red cap, and the location. No weapons, but our regular now account for a rate of
So just to explain it, one of the other things I heard about people talking about Michigan is everybody in the media, all you talk about is Garrett is white working class voters, union voters, because the Trump campaign ran ads slamming Harris's position on electric vehicles, EVs, and that is actually more significant. Ultimately, that was this was their projection. The American was white, non-college educated.
David would have the exit polls. We could look at you in the House of Representatives question for the exit.
40 has been over.
3 times I went out there.
Yeah, so there's
Any point I repeat, there are more auto manufacturers out there in the United States today than at any point in the president. However, the EV debate is a debate. We've got plants just laid off 11.
was going to be 817. I was going to put her in there, bring it to
He
us.
said that could be yes, they're not going to but this is a conversation. Are they going to, at a minimum, are they going to back? Some are going to say, no one in this family never voted for fine, this is where we find it right here.
We'll be heading back to that block for the protesters last thing you told me today.
Dropped out back Trump, Bill Govier said that's great. I love them both, and he voted for Trump a third time. So some of them have been in Trump's camp. Bill Govier. Joseph Knowles is a +1, voted Democrat all his life. So there in Macomb County, we got a long way to go here, 36%. But Trump at 58, when you round that up, Trump at 53, right there. So again, we'll see if that sustains itself.
Yeah.
And the Biden number at 45, Harris at 40. If that's the number again.
Well, there you go. And you can see why not all that is from that respect, but that is quite significant if it holds. It's going to be on the ground. At the voting desk, let's jump to Wisconsin a little bit because Pamela wants to talk about Milwaukee and what's going on there. Pamela.
Yeah, I've been talking to officials there. Milwaukee County is well as the city. Let's look at Milwaukee County right now. A large portion of the vote that remains is from Milwaukee City.
And at 546 SPID, 546 SPID of Milwaukee, the RP is back.
Source in Milwaukee County, 9 out of 19 municipalities are completely reported. And the source also says that the county clerk there expects all results from Milwaukee.
Alan Milwaukee possibly having some mental health problems. Going to be a black male wearing a gray hoodie. Unknown if he has any weapons. RP safety is not making any sense. Possibly UAV.
Milwaukee City. I just spoke to an official there. Milwaukee City has 27,724 mail-in ballots left to be counted so far. In addition, officials are still waiting for results from 4 wards still, and those would be the day of vote. So from the day, from election day. So there's still quite a bit to go to count tonight there in Milwaukee City. For context, 69% went for Biden in 2020. And as I mentioned, this is the largest county in Wisconsin. So we're keeping a close eye on this.
All right, Pamela, thanks so much. Let's take a look at Wisconsin as long as Pamela drove us here.
So a critical point, she begs 4 wards in the city of Milwaukee still have not reported their election day. And again, anecdotally, just texting people out and they said turnout was good. They were saying great, we're getting lessons, they were saying good. So you wait. But again, so we're waiting for the city. And this is Milwaukee plus the suburbs around it. The county is here. But she's at 66% and Joe Biden's at 69%. So when the city of Milwaukee votes come in, that not only does quite significantly if you're trying to make up that. Now 96,000, that's better than 150,000, right? Simple math, people. We always say politics can be very complicated. Sometimes it comes down to basic arithmetic. Are there enough votes still out there to overcome the 96,000 vote lead? And so Pam says 4 big wards are still out there. Milwaukee City, a little bit more of Milwaukee County. The answer is maybe. Right? Again, you're getting to the point where you're drawing to an inside straight flush, but maybe. So then you look around in other Democratic areas. That's okay. People there, they go down to the bottom, looking at the blue areas and saying, is there anything, not much left, right? It's not a huge swing anyway. You're not picking up a ton there. So if you're looking at this map now, just want to check represented here, 95% in Dane County. And these other blue counties around it, I'll hit them for you. You'll see they're pretty small population, they're not tiny. But again, you're at 95% Rock County, 95% County, 92%. So again, the map's getting really hard when we're trying to figure out the area back in Wisconsin. And I would say simply that it comes down to that.
We do a personal prerogative from actually the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We haven't checked in there in a while. That's I have questions about it. One of them is Allentown, which is blue right now.
Allentown is 2321.
And Pennsylvania, as we've discussed, has the 3rd largest population in the Maine, behind only New York and New York and Florida. So,
Charlie,
my question
356.
is, how is she doing in
Charlie,
the
356.
Latino area compared to Joe Biden 4 years ago?
Again, cannot go granular just in the city of LA.
Right.
You can look at Lehigh County, right? I can already tell you, 51 to 48. If you're the Trump campaign, sure, you'd like too many. But you're looking at 48% of Lehigh County, and you're feeling pretty good because you were 46 last time, right? And again, within a battleground state, you think the margins within the margin, battlegrounds within the battleground. So, Joe Biden, 53% at 98,000 voters. The Vice President at 50% at 93,000 votes. Now, we're not completely done there, but that 5,000 votes makes a big difference. It just does. Right? So that's there.
That's right here, Peter.
And you come up, just move on up, right? Carbon County.
Numbers 137, 0137.
He's improved. That's my goodness. He's overperformed himself. And then you move up here, it's like a lot of counties, Grand Pennsylvania, Joe Biden's hometown. It's a tough, competitive blue collar area. 51 to 48 now.
2323.
54. And that 10 of 4%. Right. It'd be the whole thing. A couple thousand votes here, a couple thousand votes there. I want to show you something. By the way, I just point out, Erie is now split.
Erie, which is has always voted with the presidential victor in Pennsylvania and nationally, is now
2330, never disturbance at 1301 Warren. Here's Philadelphia, Richard Henry, can't be too
Erie County there. I just want to come across the state, Northampton County. So you're on the Buffalo, New York border, and here's New Jersey here. You've got 247 there. Not done yet, but the two multi-picker counties. Twice for Obama, then for Trump, then for Biden. At the moment they're going back to Trump. I just want to show one more thing we haven't shown tonight. I just want to bring this up. It's not here. It's here. Here. All right. So here's this out eventually.
Yeah, 10-4. The two shopping carts with the signs on them are clear. Anything behind that is like a sign or an AC.
Everyone's been talking all night long about that. There'll be a lot of questions asked about this. This is not a good environment for the incumbent. Kamala Harris is the incumbent vice president. What this shows you is not clear. This shows you the darker the county, more that county is by inflation. Meaning, the darker the county, they're going to redirect energy prices, gas prices, housing prices in a lot of places. About wages. Try to find me. See the green?
Yeah, what does that mean?
That's the county where wages and output inflation.
She runs through it. I'm pacing her, I light her up, and then she slows down, we're all over the road. I'm like, okay, medical issue, what's going on? And then boom, right down the street. I'm like, how do I get down there? So I find my way down there, and she's off. A female's running, I'm like, where'd the mail go? I catch her at the fence line, she's on the other side of the fence, like, I don't know, 10, 15 yards. I'm trying to figure out how to get over this barbed wire fence this high. Jump it. I don't know what's happening. I was stuck complying, stopped to the glass, turned and go, well, make her. I pulled my taser and boom, off she goes again. I'm like, dadgummit, what is she doing? I can't figure out how to get over this fence. I'm like,
in the area. 4224.
I got one good pair of uniforms, man. I already tore up today. Got the barbed wire fence up there, over the gate right next to it.
Communication room, we have a done office.
She was about outgunned.
Yeah, 325. Case number was 80138.
So,
slight operation. Sherrod Brown, a populist, would survive some difficult testing.
Sorry for the area.
Everyone.
9784.
Change in the town 932. Shots in that area. from the County Secretary Apartment. If you give us a call advising player 12 to 13 in the area, nothing else for your needs.
Charlie 850, we're going to be pulling in the brake check.
10-4 flying, next to the brake check. What else, my dear?
Fox News decision desk has not made that decision yet. A lot of things that they're looking at.
Negative 29 with prior contact, 27 District Reserve 5'1", 178 Brown and Brown. That's
What are you doing or you out here?
That's an area that actually
Correct, an ID card only.
favoring Trump. It's also predominantly black and it has 2 universities
22,
there.
28.
So the fact that that area is going for the former president probably says something about the young black vote and the young vote in general.
Good evening. The polls are still open in many parts of the country. Votes are already being counted in some others. And in 3 states where the polls now have closed, ABC News has the following projection. We project that Mr. Reagan has won in the state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire has 4 electoral votes. ABC News also projects that Mr. Reagan is the winner in Kentucky. Kentucky has 9 electoral votes. And in Indiana, where the polls have also closed, ABC News projects Mr. Reagan the winner. That is 12 more electoral votes in Mr. Reagan's column. At this early stage of the game, then, President Reagan already has 25 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. Good evening. It is now 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and the polls have just closed in 7 more states. ABC News projects that Ronald Reagan is the winner in the state of Florida with 21 electoral votes. ABC News projects that Mr. Reagan is the winner in the state of Georgia with 12 electoral votes. And we also project that Mr. Reagan is the winner in the state of Virginia with 12 electoral votes.
And we also project at this time that Reagan has won Alabama with its 9 electoral votes. Mississippi for Reagan with 7 electoral votes. Vermont, Reagan, 3 electoral votes. South Carolina, Reagan, 8 electoral votes.
Let us do now thank you, David. Let us do our first recap of the evening. Those states and 3 states that we projected during World News Tonight, Indiana, Kentucky, and New Hampshire, make the present electoral vote total look like this: 97 for Mr. Reagan, none for Mr. Wandale, 270 needed to win.
4 states, and we have a little news on what they've been doing in those voting booths all day. In Ohio, we project the winner to be Ronald Reagan. 23 electoral votes, the biggest state we have been able to call so far tonight, one Mondale desperately wanted. In North Carolina, for Reagan, we project Reagan and 13 electoral votes in North Carolina.
David, it is early in the evening, but Mr. Reagan is piling on the electoral votes with 270 needed to win. Mr. Reagan has 133 and Mr. Mondale has none. Good evening. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and the polls are closed in 16 more states. ABC News wishes to project that Ronald Reagan has won in the state of Texas with its 29 electoral votes. The polls are still open in some parts of the states, namely in El Paso, and there is an important House race there where your vote will still count. No Democrat has won the presidency without carrying Texas. ABC News projects that Mr. Reagan has won in the state of New Jersey. The Republicans have won it in the last 4 presidential elections. ABC News projects Mr. Reagan is the winner in the state of Missouri with its 11 electoral votes. ABC News projects that Mr. Reagan has won in Tennessee. He won it only by half a point in 1980. He wins it again tonight. And ABC News projects that Mr. Reagan is the winner of the 8 electoral votes in Oklahoma, part of his western base.
Peter, with the additional states closed, there are now enough electoral votes voted on and floating around to choose a president. We now project Connecticut to have gone to Mr. Reagan with its 8 electoral votes. Kansas for Mr. Reagan, 7 electoral votes by our projection. Maine, our projection is that Ronald Reagan has carried it and it's 4 electoral votes. Delaware, our projection is that Reagan has carried Delaware with 3 electoral votes. And here's a big one. Illinois, Ronald Reagan, 24 electoral votes. Now the first victory tonight for Walter Mondale in the District of Columbia.
Adding up, 254 for Mr. Reagan, 270 needed to win. Mr. Reagan is 16 short. Mr. Mondale has 3.
We now project the winner in Michigan to be Mr. Reagan, which gives him the electoral votes to make him president for a second term. It gives him a total of 274.
Ronald Reagan still has a chance for an historic 50-state sweep.
One more state has closed its polls, Arkansas. Our projection is that Arkansas has gone to Ronald Reagan with its 6 electoral votes. Now, 280 for Mr. Reagan, 3 for Mondale. The 3 being from the District of Columbia.
And I have a projection. ABC News now projects that Mr. Reagan has won or is the winner in the state of Pennsylvania with its 25 electoral votes. That was one the Democrats really wanted very, very badly, a large Italian vote among other things. You can see now what that means in terms of electoral votes, 305 for Mr. Reagan, 3 for Walter Mondale, and we remind you that those 3 for Mr. Mondale have come in the District of Columbia. ABC News now wishes to project the state of Maryland. At the presidential level, the state of Maryland for President Reagan. Now that is normally a very strong Democratic state, Mr. Reagan getting 58% of the vote. That's one of only 6 states that went for Mr. Carter in 1980. Mr. Reagan did run ahead in the polls earlier this evening, or earlier in the campaign, I should say, but Mr. Mondale had hoped very much, as had the Democrats, that they would be able to hold the state of Maryland. ABC News projects it has gone to Mr. Reagan with 10 electoral votes. It is 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It is 8 o'clock in the Midwest. ABC wishes to make the following projections. For president in the state of Louisiana, the 10 electoral votes ABC News projects will go for Mr. Reagan. He won it in 1980. He gets it this time. In Colorado, where the Midwest ends and the mountains begin, ABC projects Mr. Reagan will win. Colorado, Gary Hart's home state, the Republican in every one of the last 4 elections. In Arizona, where the population shift has given Arizona an extra 1 electoral vote this year, ABC News projects Mr. Reagan. And in the state of Nebraska, typical of Mr. Reagan's strength in the Plains state, ABC News projects the 5 electoral votes will go to Mr. Reagan.
And we have more projections. New Mexico, also for Mr. Reagan. 5 electoral votes in New Mexico. In North Dakota, Ronald Reagan. 3 electoral votes. South Dakota, Ronald Reagan, 3 electoral votes by our projections. And in Wyoming, Ronald Reagan, 3 electoral votes. So up to this hour, it is a clean sweep of every state so far for President Reagan, with 3 electoral votes for Walter Mondale in the District of Columbia.
Exactly. To make another presidential projection in the state of West Virginia, ABC News projects that Mr. Reagan will pick up the 6 electoral votes there.
The state of Rhode Island, which is one of the states the Democrats thought that they had a shot at. Rhode Island tonight we project for Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, the tiny state by the sea, Rhode Island for Ronald Reagan. It is a little corner of blue up there. Massachusetts still could go for Walter Mondale, of course.
Here is a projection that will be particularly distressing to the Mondale campaign. We project that the state of Massachusetts has gone for Ronald Reagan. Massachusetts, President Reagan, 13 electoral votes.
We want to make an important projection. ABC News now projects that Mr. Reagan has won in the state of New York, which among other things is the home state of Geraldine Ferraro. The Democrats had hoped very much that Ms. Ferraro would help in the state of New York. ABC News projects that Mr. Reagan will win in the state of New York with its 36 electoral votes. That is the 2nd largest number of electoral votes in the country, second only to California.
In the presidential race, we project, ABC News projects, that Wisconsin has gone to Mr. Reagan. Wisconsin is a neighboring state of Minnesota, Mr. Mondale's home state. Seems not to have helped him much.
It is 10 o'clock in the east, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock on the Pacific. ABC News now projects that Ronald Reagan has won the 5 electoral votes in the state of Utah, the state that has given the Republicans their largest margins in 1976 and 80. ABC News projects Mr. Reagan in the state of Nevada with its 4 electoral votes. And we also project that Mr. Reagan has won, no surprise, the state of Montana, part of Mr. Reagan's western political fortress.
And we have still more projections. In Iowa, we project that Ronald Reagan has won the state and its 8 electoral votes. In Idaho, which he carried with 66% of the vote in 1980, in Idaho, we project that Mr. Reagan has again won the state and its 4 electoral votes. Here's the electoral total as it stands now. It is an all so far. Many states are still open, still voting. So far, it is almost a totally clean sweep for Reagan. The 3 for Mondale from the District of Columbia.
Big one, the biggest one of all on this election map, the home state of the President of the United States, California, 47 electoral votes. President Reagan, the winner in California. Mondale and Ferraro spent a lot of time and a lot of money in that state, had hopes that they could knock the president off in his own state, but tonight proves that they could not.
We're going to project another state for guess who?
That's very cute.
Guess who? Ronald Reagan wins the state of Hawaii.
I have a projection, one we have all been waiting for with some interest and curiosity. It is from Minnesota. We project that in Minnesota, Walter Mondale has won his home state, and the first state he has won this evening. It's fairly close. It should be remembered, by the way, that Mondale has not actually lived in Minnesota for about 20 years. He's lived in Washington. But nevertheless, it's his home state. He grew up there. And there you see the first blue state on the ABC News map. Minnesota for Mondale.
The day after one of the most impressive presidential victories in American history, President Reagan and George Bush won 59% of the vote, beating the Mondale-Ferraro ticket by 18 points.
I'm telling you the truth, please. Where are we going?
I think it's hard to make that case for some of the reasons that I think Britta and Carl have made the point. I think 3 things. I listen to Sandra's data. I'm curious as we get a day or so away from this, as we look at what happened with the performance amongst women. For the Hispanic women, white women, and bigger range was where the disparity between the two. And then the race thing for me, I'm going to be curious also when we heard that the numbers around Hispanic voting, but no black voters where they might be. And it's just like, Carl, normally we see a race where in the country where the cultural issues impact, as you talk about the suburban areas and some places, and you see the suburban areas in Pennsylvania and elsewhere where the economic issues fracking and the livelihoods of those communities where it's staying. The cultural issues, I think the issue, Robert, Michael comes from 1222 I understand what it meant and to put him in girls playing sports. I'm a father with a son and a daughter, what it means. I really will. I promise. And actually, in the firefighter situation, Ida, Nora, George, Robert, I don't know that we will love him to Jessica's point. I really do know that we imagine who we are as a party, which I think would be good for the party if indeed the trend continues where it is this evening. I'm not going to labor this point, but for a candidate, I'm not trying to break you. Democrats who are really, really aggressive and media that echo calling him racist and a Nazi. Also, are we going to today, black vote and the Hispanic vote going exponentially more than it did before. It's really quite something. I mean, it's just startling.
Which tends to take its cues, to say the very least, from Democrats, and to repeat with serious faces the charges he made, and there's sometimes outlandish claims that he's made about Donald Trump.
We could be getting ready for a call here soon. We're going to stay here, and we're going to go to Bill Hemmer, because you're looking at Pennsylvania, Bill. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can. Yeah, sorry. I always talk to you when they're talking to you.
There's a general fire alarm.
Pennsylvania we're still looking at, but we're also looking at the national popular vote, which he's currently leading. Yeah, one thing I was looking at here, okay, this is Philadelphia. This is 2016. This is Trump's margin in Philadelphia. 15.5, okay? Then it comes back 4 years later. Philadelphia, that's where you guys, I mean, it's a Republican running in a blue part of the state. It's just shy of 18. Okay, so where is he today? He's almost at 21. Okay, so hold on that line, okay? There's a reason for this.
That's going to be Rodriguez. First is going to be Adrena, Adam Union, David, Robert, Ida, Nora, Adam, 5-1 of 2008. Adrena Rodriguez, 5-1 of 2008.
So the things I'm going to show you right now.
What are you excited?
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah, I'm looking at camera footage. I'm in the back.
Really, when we talk about the blue wall, here's where we stand right now, okay? Reach higher than that. Trump's just shy of 3 percentage points. Now tick it down to 2.7. That's a live number that continues to go up. Go ahead and clear this. Kevin, wind out there, man. This is the vote margin for Pennsylvania. I want to show you the blue wall, how, you know, if it's moved every direction for the past 3 decades, is it about to move the same direction yet again? All right, there's 3 counties here in Philadelphia that really tell a story. It's your flipper county, is that right? Look at Northampton. All right, Northampton is above Philadelphia. Trump's leading in Northampton. That's flipped for Biden. It's flipped back to Trump by about 5 points. Look at the other end of the state, Erie. Erie is one of these bellwethers as well. Kamala Harris has been leading there most of the night, and just about 30 minutes ago, Erie flipped. In Center County, right smack dab in the middle of that T that you normally get in Pennsylvania. Center County has always been the exception. It's been blue. That's where Penn State University is located. Center. That's
Andrew, 51106, 51106, Andrew Garza.
in Pennsylvania thus far. There's a real good chance he flips all those and maybe more shortly. So I want to show you that. We'll go ahead and clear it. And give it back to you guys. Okay?
It's really interesting. We've got some action because we're hearing the former president is going to his West Palm, but we're also seeing Cedric Richmond in Harris Duff's campaign co-chair speaking of
30 Morgan.
votes to come. We still have states that have not been called yet.
00 Adam. Business check. Summary store on FM 136.
That every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight. But you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Professor, do you want me to put in a photo?
Cedric Richmond, campaign co-chair.
Brother, I actually need to know what that means. I mean, I really need to. What that all means. I didn't know work like that, like what that actually means. What I'm telling you. You should be writing.
She's super strong.
Appreciate it.
I'll pull around the back and get
Temporary, she's got a black eye and her hand is bleeding from being bit.
I will. That's what I'm saying.
We're down at 17 in Vandor to the south of 72 in Vandor.
50 traffic.
I need a lot. Can I tell you?
Agent X-ray 3130.
Yeah, come on.
What's going on?
We'll help you out.
Hey, it's no problem. But hey, no, I don't want it like that.
All right, let's walk in here.
I want to give you a good help. That
Walk in here, go.
I'm so sorry, but I understand what that actually means to someone, but I should be writing a ticket like saying and that part those and me actually being at those situations. You don't understand what I'm saying? So
I think that's the plan.
Right, he rolled into, yeah, he rolled into Florida at 5:30 in the morning. That was yesterday morning. No, it wasn't. It was this morning, wasn't it? Right, because it was Wednesday, right? Okay, you follow me on the calendar? Okay, yeah, okay. But it's been stubborn. It appears that it'll stick that way as well. Kent County and Grand Rapids will stay in the blue column. It's a changing area, you know, this west coast of Michigan. But what I'm seeing right now, even though you have just about 60% of the vote in, I'm seeing a lot of red lining up and down Lake Michigan. And for a while, you know, that had changed. It seemed to be shifting a little bit. There's a county right here called Muskegon, beautiful part of the world. And that had seemed to be drifting in the Democratic column as well. But Trump's got a firm grip on it now, 16 points. And I'll just go west of Muskegon, or sorry, south of Muskegon, west of Grand Rapids. It's Ottawa County there. Like for years, this was like a Republican bastion. Trump kept it that way in 2020, winning by 21.5 points. In 2016, in Ottawa specifically, you ran away with it at 30 points. And so it will stay that way tonight. And let me just come out to real-time data here and let you know where we are statewide. You've got some vote out there, but you see this margin here yet again. Just as I'm talking here, guys, it's ticking higher. 210,967, 6.3 percentage point lead in Michigan. I'm not going to say it because it's not my job, but it looks like the blue wall could stay intact yet again for another year.
Nora Sam Robert 5415. Nora Sam Robert 5415. Silver Honda 4-door.
I think we're getting ready for a call.
I think we are too. Are we?
Fox News can now project that the state of Georgia will go to former President Donald Trump. This was a really hard-fought battle. If you think about Georgia loses it last time to President Biden by 11,779 votes. For some reason that number sticks in my mind. And this is a big win. He went there, campaigned there, and so did Vice President Harris numerous times, thinking that Georgia could stay in the Democratic column.
You know, he had a difficult relationship with Governor Brian Kemp. If you remember, 4 years ago, after losing Georgia, they tried to salvage 2 Senate races in Georgia. A month later, special elections. That didn't go well either. So this is a very big win for former President Trump to, you know, have this redemption in Georgia tonight.
So now we are at Electoral College vote, 248 for Trump and 216 for Harris. We have a panel. We're welcoming in Darren Shaw, member of the Fox News Decision Desk. Welcome in Juan Williams as well, along with Karl Rove. Darren, we got you out here. We were going to say, what happened? Are we calling Georgia? And then you pushed the button.
Are you here to tell us that we were right when we said you called Georgia?
Yeah, I thought you were going to come down here to grill me, and we preempted that.
What else are we going to call?
Georgia in the nick of time for you, Darren.
While we have you, how do you see this night? And was it like you thought going in? And as you look at the blue wall there?
Well, I think 2 things. This is an election that is unprecedented by my standards because the more data I saw, the more possibilities seemed to unfold. There was stuff a couple weeks ago I didn't think could happen. I didn't think Trump could win, let's say, the national vote. I'm not saying he's going to, but that was something that nobody thought could happen. They thought he was capped at 47, 48%. That's a possibility. We had a lot of conversations about whether these, swing states were going to move together or whether they were going to sort of crack and each move separately. There's a possibility tonight that, I didn't think this would happen earlier in the afternoon, but that he could sweep all of them. That's not a prediction, but it's something that's within the realm of possibility with the data we've seen.
You're saying blue wall turns into a red wall.
It's possible. And that wasn't something anybody was talking about. People talk about Michigan in particular as being the toughest state for Trump to crack. Now, Bill's shown the data recently. We've been looking at it for hours. Michigan's looking very difficult for him right now.
All these toss-up states have been within a point or two. So Is there any way to look at what you see now and say this could be a win in a larger percentage than that? I mean, a lot of these states are still close, but...
Right. What we're looking at right now, we have sort of model data, and we're looking to reach a certain level of statistical significance to make a call. We're also looking at what we call the outstanding vote. And so, for instance, in the case of Georgia, we modeled about 835,000 outstanding votes. A lion's share of them were coming from suburban Atlanta. You know, she needed to hit about 55, 56%. She was getting about 45%. And at a certain level, that becomes a statistical impossibility. You know, the more data you get, the less room she has to actually grow or do better than she's been performing. And so that sort of triggered the call in Georgia. We're not quite there yet in the other states, but this may not be an election where we're going to be here till Thursday or Friday.
Right, and so when they say go home, relax, you're saying maybe not yet.
We'll see if they, continue to count. Arizona and Nevada have been particularly stubborn about that. We understand in Nevada they don't allow any counting until the last vote has been cast, which is we think why we're getting basically nothing so far. But Arizona, it's coming in sort of droves, close race there. Wisconsin and Michigan. Michigan seems to be counting there like 54, 55%. Wisconsin at 2 a.m. in 2020 had counted 99% of the votes. So we think there's a chance we might have enough data in Wisconsin, maybe Michigan, so we may have some resolution more quickly than we thought.
So in Pennsylvania, Sean talked about this earlier, the early vote and what that looked like and what she would have to do day of in Philadelphia and those counties right around there. Is it possible that that's still out there and it's possible to do?
Boy, it seems to be a probability diminishing by the hour. I think this is something from the Georgia data, but we've also seen it in Pennsylvania. Young African-American men did not come home. Part of the African-American vote came home to her, but a lot of it didn't, and there's a gender gap there. And the Georgia, I think, I have to run the numbers, and I'm not going to lay this in the feet of any demographic group in particular, but she really did seem to underachieve amongst African-American males, especially young African-American males.
I mean, it just makes me think about Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, the former president, and the very strong appeals that they made. Michelle Obama said, don't let your husband or boyfriend's rage dictate your vote. President Obama talked about bringing out the brothers and scolding them. That does not seem to have been a strategy that worked.
Darren, did the Fox News voter analysis track with what you saw with raw vote as you went around the states?
Yes. There were a couple. What we're doing early on is we get this early vote from Indiana and Kentucky. It allows us to kind of figure out is the FNVA performing consistent with the data. There were a couple states where Trump overperformed the data. Florida was one. We were a little concerned that we might be overestimating Trump's performance in rural areas, but the more data we got, the more that didn't seem to be the case. It seemed like he was basically hitting what we thought he would hit.
We've got the brain here. Did anybody else have a question for Darren?
I'm curious about immigration and what you're seeing in terms of how much that played into the votes.
One thing we can say is that it didn't repel people. In particular, there was some talk about the Hispanic vote coming home over the issue of immigration. That did not seem to happen much at all. The FNVA suggested, I think it was 40% was Trump's performance amongst Latinos. That ended up being, I think, within 13 or 14 points of Harris's. I mean, if you showed me before the election and said, that he's going to get 15% of the African American vote, 40% of the Hispanic vote, I'd say that's an awfully tough night for a Democrat to win an election.
There's some reporting that Trump has won Erie County, Pennsylvania. Is that square with anything you understand?
I think it was on sort of a knife's edge. I don't know if Bill's got the latest data. Part of her hope. Right?
Went back to the Trump team, and right now, currently, just to keep you guys up to date, he leads it by a point in 1.4, which is a little less than 2,000 raw votes.
And it's 99%
left out. How much was that? 99% in or 90? What did you say?
90%, statewide 90%. Darren, I got a question for you. When you think about the blue wall in the upper Midwest, when we were at the convention in Milwaukee in July, it ended on a Thursday. On a Friday, we had that national computer glitch. All the airports were shut down. So all the delegates and all the journalists and all the campaign folks were stranded at the airport in Milwaukee. And I was still thinking at the time about, why did I just see Kid Rock? And why did I see Hulk Hogan? And why did I see Dana White? And I went to the campaign, I said, what's going on there? Because it was men, it was white men. And they said, we notice in the upper Midwest, at the time they were thinking about Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio to a lesser degree, and Pennsylvania. That's what they were thinking about. And they said, we noticed that there was a certain percentage of white men who voted in 2016. They sat out 2020, and we're trying to win them back. Is there evidence that those white males in those upper Midwest states did that tonight?
There was sort of a rule of thumb we were adopting that, and we spoke about this a little bit earlier in conversation with y'all, but that, the gender gap is a double-edged sword. The gender gap can help or hurt depending upon, the absolute level of support. We were looking at 55%. In other words, if Trump was hitting 55% with men, that was a good sign. If Harris was hitting 55% with women, that was a good sign. And in the upper Midwest states, he was getting closer to that sort of magic number than she was. So what you call it, the bro strategy or whatever, it seems to have paid some dividends up there. I mean, we're still waiting, but it's looking pretty good.
So we can definitively say that the poll that we don't talk about in Iowa was
I love Ann Seltzer. She's a giant, a pioneer in our field. I think what we were looking at, ironically, was not so much the top line in that race, but what Seltzer had said was that senior women were breaking away from Trump over the abortion issue. And I think our friend Sean Trende had a really good observation where he said that may be true, but it may not help Harris, because that's something that could occur in Iowa where abortion was a hot issue, but might not occur nationally in other states where abortion wasn't as salient.
We have to let you go, but really quickly, what's happening in Minnesota? That's what I was going to ask. Minnesota, why is that still?
They have done what sometimes they do in states. They've stopped counting votes. And we're kind of close to
been through with that.
We're at a level where close to statistical significance, but it's not quite there yet. And there are still
Tim Walz in charge of that?
Yeah.
We have to let you go because you have some more data
Welcome
crunching
back.
to do.
This is a breaking alert that has just moved on the AP Wire. The Associated Press has called the battleground state of Georgia for Republican Donald Trump. That adds another 16 electoral votes to the Republicans' total. It's also the second of the 7 battleground states that AP has called tonight for Trump. The other 5 remain outstanding at this hour and are too early to call. As you can see on the live voting map next to me, that brings Donald Trump's electoral vote total to 246 and Kamala Harris to 210. Back with me as he is all night is Sagar Madani. Okay, Sagar, we've got our second of these battleground calls. What are you telegraphing in this? What do we see?
Mar-a-Lago. I did get a video from someone at the Mar-a-Lago party a short while ago, and folks there were jubilant and cheering and clapping. They had Fox News on the screen. They were watching as we were calling states and more races for the former president. The excitement here is climbing every minute, and people here are anxiously awaiting to see how the former president shows up here tonight and perhaps gives a victory speech. Back to you.
Charlie Brady, so first.
Thank you very much. Head back there. If the former President Trump is about to take the stand and speak,
yeah, we saw that in our live pictures here.
1 a.m. in New York. Polls have just closed in Alaska. The Fox News decision desk says it is too early to call. Trump has a lead in our Fox News voter analysis.
Keep our eyes on our images coming in from voters gathered to report. Thank you for that. We will bring you more AP race calls and election night updates as this evening goes on. Thank you and stay tuned.
Could be a red wall. You just heard from Darren Shaw. I think that
as for your 43, that decision really kind of lifts the curve to how these guys operate. Based on our Fox News voter analysis, which shows 120,000 voters, that a rolling poll, and then the raw vote total that they came in.
43.
Alex Hoff is in Pennsylvania. We'll check in on the ground there. Alexander.
Hey, good to be with you. Yeah, the crowd here in Bucks County, they are excited.
I mean,
about
for sure,
trends they are seeing, not necessarily expecting to result tonight in Pennsylvania's results. And the
Call
count
Victor
is historically
is here
slow
someone on the
for
line
4
telling
days
him else
in
to do it.
2020, but the Commonwealth Secretary does
She's
believe
waiting for
that
him
it's
to
going to
stab
be
her.
faster this time. New technology, more
As he's
training
not
will
answering
come
any
into
questions,
office.
the line
Now, looking
disconnected.
at
Your assistant call back
Philadelphia,
now.
both the Trump and the Harris campaigns, they're saying they're outperforming there. But Team Trump feels that this could be good news for them because there are pockets of support inside of South Philadelphia, Northeast Philadelphia. And there is a saying that goes that Republicans can gauge how well they are doing in the state by how much they are losing Philadelphia by. Simply, it cuts into the
7030, 7030, 1421 Devon, 142 in Devon. Personal fire dispatch at 1201. She'll use the easy.
I mean, that would be the first time a Republican presidential candidate has taken this county since 1988. And these suburbs of Philadelphia, this is what pushed Biden over the edge in 2020. Harris needs to do well in these counties if she stands to have a chance of taking the state, guys. Right, Martha?
Alex, thank you. So let's go to Bill and see, what are you cooking up over there?
I was just looking at New York. We heard so much about MSG and the insult comment about the border joke. And Trump, New York's his home, right? And now living in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, but just look at this. I'm going to go ahead and use the slide bar and just, 8 years ago, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, this is his margin in New York, all right? 37.5 compared to almost 59 for Hillary Clinton. And then against Joe Biden was, what? What was it? Oh my gosh. It was 0.3 of a point, all right? And now we come to 2020 and see the numbers on the board here. That's a pretty decent performance. And just getting some insight here in New York City. He did well over 40% of the vote here in New York as well. One thing I was checking out here, guys, this is the number, right? Path to 270?
Is it that truck that parked on the north side facing south with like 4 people standing around
If you were
it?
to close out Pennsylvania, and even though Alaska has ranked choice voting, which could take a while to post a number here, nonetheless, that would put him right at the number 270. So even around the blue wall, it's possible too. That goes back to the argument that we've been talking about for some time now that Trump had more pass.
Let's go
check out Pennsylvania one more time here.
Can you ID the driver?
90% of the estimated vote out there is now reporting here. In Michigan, the blue wall, 6.3, so that number is stuck a little bit here. Estimated somewhere, maybe 40% of the vote still missing there in Michigan and Wisconsin.
I'm ready.
Maybe get some more numbers in. He's got 85% of the vote in here. And, Trump's holding on to his 4.2 advantage in Wisconsin.
I don't particularly like where it's at.
They take a lot of pride in what they do. They want to get the vote out quickly. Maybe
And there's just several people standing around it.
That's their idea. So we could get that in maybe a little more as we go into the 2 a.m. hour.
There's no vehicle of people getting out next to it.
Just be advised, the Representative 15 at Building 19, District Cabinet 3.
It was mobile.
I actually thought so. He was doing he did a big circle of guys. And I was like, oh, I can do it.
Red jacket, black beanie, gray hoodie, red beanie. Just got out and are walking south west block.
Glad you guys found it.
Just a tad over 35,000 votes. Clark County, Las Vegas, 70% of the votes in the Silver State here all come from Nevada. Let's see what's happening right now.
There's any other patrol come over here, you can hold off.
With 80%, I want to go comparison sake, 8 years ago, 100, right? In Nevada, I don't know what this number is. We'll find out together, okay? So Hillary Clinton did 2 points better than Kamala Harris. And Joe Biden.
You take no known suspect, no one has permission to use the vehicle. Owner does say that a thief has been missing for a while, however.
It appears if you're in the Trump camp, that's a pretty good number right now. Just shy of 51% in Nevada early on. Here's Carl Carl's favorite place in the world is Washoe County, right, Carl? Right now, Point,
That's 23. I'll try to get around to the south. I'll stay at it. Site.
Charlie for the location.
Yeah, man, go for a stroll, dude. Like,
pretty close, 5-1 to count. So in all likelihood, Trump's got a chance to flip this if it holds up right now. Super slam and more votes coming in. But Nevada is looking good too. Now you start to wonder, you know, how high does this number go?
The 1104 104 at 650 Sharon, 650 Sharon, our dispatch at 1206.
Is what they have. Well, let's check in. Let's go out to Vegas. Jeff Paul is live in Las Vegas. Jeff, what's
is it missing a front left fender and the front
Well,
grill?
a lot of excitement here and optimism at the Sam Brown Watch Party. He is, of course, the
Really, because it looked like it
candidate
definitely a
trying to
four-door Chevy
unseat
Colorado.
the Democratic incumbent Senator Jackie Rosen. And just a few moments ago, when Bill was talking about Nevada, you heard a lot of cheers here from the crowd at the Sam Brown Watch Party, just knowing some of those initial numbers. It took nearly 3 hours to finally get some of those numbers. We're hoping to get another batch in the coming hours, but Nevada has an interesting law where it's, you know, you can vote right up until the 7 o'clock hour, and if you're in line, they'll let you vote. And in order to release those results, they wait until the very last person in line votes. That person, it took 2 hours and 48 minutes, so still a very long night ahead of us. But for the folks here at the Sam Brown Watch Party, a lot of optimism.
Last name Johnson, common spelling. First name Charles. Can be Charles Henry Adam Robert Lincoln Edward Sam. 62106. 62106 should be a black round.
You can see the
Those are 425 for the unknown LE at 2722 Vita, 2722 Vita, RP 50 Chris. Those are 4.
I'm holding on that cell phone. Bill, 416 area. They definitely know last year. I drove around the parking lot with my lights on. And that's when I ran.
Turned off. President Trump is going to help the Republicans hold the House.
Delta Road's negative. His last call was 3 days ago.
It may be exactly the same or wouldn't be smaller. Look at the 2 seats I said at the very beginning of the night. Watch Pittsburgh 7.
Ray Jackson, you called out those standing in front of the store. I think the one in the red and black.
Delta 455.
Going to lose that by 1 point. You did an extraordinary job. Then you look at Maine. We're ahead there. But we have some incumbents that have fallen in New York. California's just in now, but don't read those numbers yet, because it's just the first part coming in. We're going to have to wait some time to see where they're. Arizona, we've got a couple of incumbents in trouble. Bacon's coming back in Omaha, maybe there.
Can you tell us?
Hold the House. This is a trifecta. The credit goes to President Trump, but it
I
also
can't because there's a car blocking my view.
Reconciliation when it comes to tax reform.
If
So
that
you don't
car
need 60
leaves,
votes in the Senate. Having
and
the
we can
Senate
see
as
it
large as he is, he's going to get the
unoccupied,
cabinet that he
there's a
wants.
good chance
The other
PT
thing
will
that's
have
going to happen
videos
is you're not going to
available.
have a Hakeem Jeffries
Jack
that's
those
going
guys
to try
while they're
to
on
impeach
foot.
him every single week. So America's going to see ability to govern. And if Republicans take this moment in time to not play games and focus on the issues, they can grow it the next time. Otherwise, it's going to be very competitive.
But Juan Williams, if it's as big as we think it could be, we obviously haven't made these calls yet, but it's trending that way, and the pathway for her to win is getting narrower and narrower. Isn't it not a mandate? And the thought of impeachment with what we're seeing tonight seems like wouldn't be the right move.
Well, I think the Democrats are well dispirited at
Does
this.
that vehicle
I
look
think
the
that the
reference
likelihood, as we
to
pointed out, is that Trump will be the president. And I think that, for me, talking to people like Darren and
Are you guys on the ground or?
no one anticipated the size of this mandate as you go.
We're on the ground, but we're walking.
I think that there's even recriminations now among Democrats as to Biden and whether Biden should have dropped out earlier or Biden should have stayed. Would a white male have done better? Obviously, Trump has defeated 2 women and now a black woman. So there's all these questions. But to my mind, it seems to me incredible that a guy who led an insurrection against the United States government is going essentially now, like I finished going back into the Oval Office. It's unbelievable.
Well, you have to consider the fact, Warren, that a lot of people didn't think that was an insurrection. They thought it was a
male in the
riot,
gray
but not an
hoodie and
insurrection.
jacket with
And they
one
thought there was an
insiders around it. I may have lost visual too. You pointed
Well,
out.
I don't know.
Exaggerations about that day.
Well, I'm not exaggerating.
About the alleged
They were
democracy is a piece of
around it with the doors open.
Well, I don't think so.
I can tell you the
Again, I'm giving you my perspective.
And I'm giving you mine.
Right, so I listen to you as my friend. But I'm going to tell you what I saw was not only a right in terms of the violence, but a direct action intended to stop certification of the presidential election.
Understood. And we've talked a lot about it.
That's why I said that.
And we've talked a lot about it. The campaign,
clearly.
the campaign,
I'm not trying to hype that.
the campaign ran a lot of ads about it, talked a lot about it, and more, half the country now, Juan is going to say, that is not what I care about. I care about my economy. I care about immigration.
That's what we do. I'm not sold on this idea that, it was the cost of eggs. I worry that it was, I'm not voting for this woman. I'm not voting for this black woman.
No, that's not what we see in our data.
Well, here's the thing. Where do you see that? Because a moment ago, Darren was out here and he said, in fact, not only did the Burr strategy work, and the Burr strategy largely worked along the lines of white men, but the Burr strategy also had some impact in terms of Latino and black men who came along and gave higher percentages.
I did see it occupied, but I did get descriptions when I was driving
I spoke
around.
to Jack Brewer this week, and here's what he said. If Trump wins, he said he won because black men felt that Democrats and elites put immigrants before us. Your thoughts on that?
I just think that that's possible. I don't know that for a fact. I think there are tensions between racial groups.
Please show me signal 4 at 5990 South
You can exploit those tensions and you can exacerbate them to the point where you can politically benefit from it. Do I think that's the reason he won? No. I think the reason he won is you look at that Burr strategy and the white male turnout and white grievance politics that he has used to great success in this country.
Carl, I think he's trailing him on trailing his prior 2020.
3700 we got the 380?
Well, you know what? I think that the Burr
Hispanics and black males.
it's not sufficient to make up. It's not sufficient to have this kind of.
I just think it is extremely odd to suggest that black men are somehow prejudiced because they vote for a white
Negative, no medics
who says, I want to make certain that everybody has an opportunity to succeed in our great planet. I want you to be more prosperous, and I will do things that will make it possible for you to make a better life.
Repeat division of Medicaid. I'll go ahead and
He did not go out and say, vote for me because I'm not a woman. Don't vote for me because I'm a white man. That would not have attracted those votes. They got attracted to him because they thought he was a strong, effective leader, and they thought he would do something about the they cared the most about, which is an economy in which they think they get the short stick. Inflation, which has decimated their purchasing power, and illegal immigration, which has affected their economy. To suggest that somehow black men are racist because they support a white man is just too far, Juan.
You're distorting my comments, but let me just say,
I really can't say if Samuel was associated with Carlo. I think when we were watching the store, the other black
to the backyard of Hot Hampshire.
for Donald Trump. So I never said anything like that. That's just not true.
You suggested it's only
I'm saying to you that in terms of this Burr strategy for white males, the whole notion of I'm bad, I talk about women in the most disparaging way. There's some men who just say, you know what, I get into, I want to be in on that. I want to be a badass guy. And I think they Trump's image and the character.
I think they supported him in spite of that, not because of it.
Harold Ford Jr.
We offered to make their life better.
Harold Ford,
I tend to agree with Juan about January 6th. I'm surprised by the fact that the country got over that as quickly as we seemingly did, which speaks to the political comeback. I've said here earlier, I think that the fact that some of these issues around the economy and the political were not addressed forthrightly, I think had an impact. That being said, we're going to have some analysis around this and around whether or not the driving up support amongst men, what was behind that, how did it work? Did the gender gap with women the black women, white women, Hispanic women. We still don't know those numbers. We'll have an opportunity to dig into some of those things. But I don't interpret what Juan is saying any more than that.
More to talk about here.
There's a lot more coming up as election night moves on at 1:15 on the East Coast. We continue to get more vote in.
Red
We'll be
jacket,
able to make some
black
calls
media
when
out
our
of it.
vote is in full. I'll
The
cover
female
some
law
next.
enforcement.
For suspicious person, 2214 Guadalupe, 2214 Guadalupe.
Yeah, the red jacket. Female getting the front passenger.
Female, RP's advising there's a female walking around the neighborhood, she's looking around vehicles and looking into them.
And for where it's at, I would prefer
They'll
not.
support society, so clear, we take that, we're riding.
If we have to err on my shift, it would be to let it go. Try a traffic stop, and if it takes off, we'll let it forward.
Delta 320 Ashgate, sir.
Adam 14, that's not been arrest.
Adam 14, different. Gang 85 Delta 4. Adam 410, 10-4.
It's gonna be Johnny, he's on supervisor.
How much dope did you eat over here? Y'all have any Narcan? Open your mouth. Still in your mouth.
And Delta 430, 10-4.
He may have been in that action. I don't think anybody else is inside of the store.
You back away with us now? We said Narcan. He woke up. Turn around. Turn this way. Put your feet this way. Lean right
Check
there.
the radar, he's that jacket. Nail this last pick up on that one.
You feeling better now?
4 pickup, green colors, you do time. Adam 29.
I was just doing something on the driver.
You okay? Feel a lot better now? I don't know how to help you if you don't talk to me.
Mention 10 for gas inside of a structure is Seaton 161016 3805 Rojo Street 3805 Rojo Fire Dispatch at 1208.
If I was a white or Hispanic male, can't really get an age, medium build.
You got an ID in the car? She's got your ID?
What's your name?
10-4.
Can you sit with him? Make sure you are.
Advising,
Grab if I need help.
And Delta 320 Ashley, I was Delta 430, 1102 South Shoreline, 1102 South Shoreline at the Holiday Inn. And Delta 350 and Delta 430 is going to be for a male riding around on a bike who was trying to take a machine out of the truck. It's going to be a Hispanic male wearing a black shirt, gray shorts on a black bike. Last seen heading towards downtown.
There's a email. One source has female in all pink.
Figured that would be. I can smell it.
Delta 380 for the missing runway 4429 Ramsey, 4429 Ramsey. The RP is going to be Thomas.
John North, King, Boy, Victor 6, 1, Edward, 8, Mary, 2, 4, 5, 6. Can you repeat?
Negative.
193, the white Kia that they broke into in the north parking lot. Was there any other cars that were you're trying to move? Looks like they threw a rock through the window and then they left the backpack here. I'll figure out who did it belongs to. I will clarify with call taker.
Negative, that's me. It's the Chevy Colorado facing south on the north end of the city.
Okay, 10-4. We're high and wide, but I've got it on my camera. No problem. We have Puerto Rico in the area of Shoreline Park, north.
2016 10-4. Yeah.
South San Tom 2530.
Victor Franklin in 04.
5. 10-4.
It's good. He's about to give it.
318.
I'm gonna hold your hands behind your back. You clear out of here, or are you gonna be able to keep an eye on them?
Put your hands behind your back right now. No, you don't get some courtesy for this crap. You wanna go 130?
It's going to be tough for me to see that much description. We're kind of over Speedway and Dodge area right now. So I can see the vehicle, but I don't have any definition of people. That makes sense. Stable to Woodruff on Victor Charles Robert, 5846.
Clear out.
He wasn't able to see me from where I was parked. The other vehicles were in the way. you. I can't see that person near the passenger door.
Yeah, the transit just walked up to the
It's hard to understand how some in the mainstream media are willing to take this because it was so over the top one way that they thought it was done. There was a landslide prediction from a lot of the media that she's going to have a landslide. It looks like he's going to have a landslide too. Yeah, it's truly remarkable. And this is not just, a victory for the White House.
Copy. There's a group of them hanging out by the Walgreens, and there's 3 marked units north of Walgreens, so we need to give it an
figured out how to win with that. And you can't help but think that with this victory, in 4 years from now, he's going to have the mantle that he can hand to the next generation.
Okay.
To accept anything, all of the experts counting him out.
154, I think Rodriguez is going to be the female 95.
I actually had no idea you were behind me. No, I was looking in front of me because she was
party lost the midterm. 2018, they lost in 2018, they lost the presidential election in 2020, and they had a major disappointment in 2022, which, one might have thought after all that, the party wouldn't turn to them again, and yet, in the face of that, plus all of the indictment,
What about all that? Yeah, wait. Brad being the simplest guy brother, maybe.
For right now, we might be able to get our location on here in a second.
Hostages in Gaza right now, very high inflation, and a malaise in many ways in the country that I think these people will be told a lot of names.
Delta 440, Delta 450 to the shots heard at 700 pounder, 700 pounder. Arctic ID 5 to 6 shots heard about a minute ago from the area of Ralston and Alameda. Nothing else seen or heard.
I think it's going to be incumbent on the Democratic Party to understand that the people have spoken and to disassemble and dismantle this lawfare that they system built up here, which is going to raise a whole series of questions that are going to have to be answered now. But they cannot say that they are better than Donald Trump and recreate a system that does not recognize that he won, and the people have spoken, and he is going to be the 47th president.
We haven't talked about foreign policy a lot, but imagine the Saudis, making a normalization deal with Israel in the face of a new president. Imagine going there tomorrow. Imagine a Ukraine deal that Donald Trump talks about. Kevin O'Leary, what is the market going to do?
370 to 400.
Try and break the American
Delta
law
310.
that fixes itself. And I think people should give credit within the Democratic Party. Donald Trump saved them tonight too, because they're going to have to take a spatula to these policies and bring it back to the center over the next 4 years. And in a way, reset. We talked about this earlier, but he saved entrepreneurship. He saved the entire model of the S&P 500 because taxing 20% higher was a really bad idea.
It's going to be 209, 0209.
Capital, this is why I'm getting on a plane tomorrow night. I intentionally didn't leave till tomorrow night so I could go to Geneva, go to Abu Dhabi, go to Riyadh, and
Said we're reporting Mary out of the subject.
corporate taxes.
If I was good, the gas just came and was right
That
in the
is
car.
very important for people like me that bring capital back to this country. It fixed itself. It fixed itself.
And built a 425 back to him out at Fort Mary.
When it gets too crazy, it
Actually,
fixes
disregard the lights
itself.
just came on the
And
car.
whether you love Trump or you hate him, every Democrat owes him a thank you very much, Mr. President.
By the way,
John 9551.
these election markets were moving. Bitcoin went up exponentially.
Yes, I'm long Bitcoin.
You know, speaking of Bitcoin, I'm also struck by just calling Pennsylvania here, Dana. Trump embraced Elon Musk in an enormous way. A lot of stories were written that said that he was going to blow it in Pennsylvania.
Yes,
That
whatsoever.
the people who were working on his outreach teams didn't know what they were doing. He's going to.
And he got a lot of criticism, remembering the $1 million giveaway for registered voters. But Selena Zito, who's somebody that we follow and we've had on the show many times,
Can you sign a
she knows
piece
that
of
area
special
very
for me,
well. She said the people of that region
Okay.
love somebody
Question number
who is a big
6604
thinker,
6601.
who wants to create jobs, who is like looking into the future, and they can get behind that. And they
He's
love
already
somebody
heard
who
3 more
really
shots, nothing else being heard. Closer to 704 Ponder. So we got another call coordinated at possibly at 7:30 here in South Korean area.
She doesn't want to take a position on anything. We haven't even talked about how in California, the law to basically make shoplifting illegal again passed overwhelmingly, and Gascon, our friend down the DA in Los Angeles, lost by 22 votes. I mean, this is in California, so it was everywhere. And 2 days before, 22 points, thank you. She wouldn't even take a position. 75% of the people in California wanted it gone. You can't take a position to be with them.
Not only that, you were part of Prop 47, which changed the law when you were in office.
So not wanting to take a position and not being willing to be criticized is a problem if you want to be a leader.
It's okay, I'll need you back up. They're about to
She
get
had that
off the
affliction
road
in
thing.
2020. Why didn't your own party say, you're not the right candidate? I mean, run a process.
Well,
get
they
the-
did. They ran out of town before any votes were cast in 2019.
But the
and
same
then she's flunked
affliction
out of there.
hit her here. The same problem she had in 2020 hit her in 2024.
Delta 460, go ahead.
It's not all her fault. They put her
Yeah,
in
it's
a
not gonna
race
be
that
shots.
she
It's actual fireworks.
couldn't win.
It's been going off over here with
There's no doubt. I agree with you on unrealized capital gains. We shouldn't be taxing that. But we produce more wealth, more innovation, more cures, more therapeutics over the last 3 years. So I hear you. Democrats are not bad.
10-4, it's going to be fireworks, 600 block of Ralston.
But we're a great country, and we're going to continue to be great. And I trust and hope and believe that
Your
President Trump.
party will be great again.
I want the
And you can thank Donald Trump for that.
But he handled the economy also. I was in pretty good shape. I don't want to quarrel about that. All I want to going forward, I agree with you. I want the country to be down, and I hope that both of the parties can work together to try and do that. And I salute President Trump tonight. What a great win. And I agree with you in this regard. My party's got to reimagine and reinvent itself going forward.
Listen, I wrote about this, the unity and
You did.
past presidents and past losers and winners and what they said. This is a big speech for former President Trump. As he gets ready to deliver this in front of a crowd, he's obviously taken the slings and arrows and everything that's been said, the fascism, all of
Okay,
the things we talked about.
yeah,
tonight.
there's somebody over here on
This
Ponder.
moment
Or,
is actually a
I'm
moment
sorry, Ralston
to reach
also.
out.
I actually saw him going off.
So you got to wonder how many people are alive to hear.
Oh, they're there.
And
he's definitely
a lot of people are still up.
The question is, how much is the national TV audience?
I bet they're still in.
You know, I think back at the moment in Iowa, at the beginning of this process, Brett, when we were in the town hall with him, Western,
1351, and I have another one by me to do the break.
all of this revenge stuff, and that
Are
he
you
was
in a
going to
place
want
to block
retribution. And this
northbound
is what
traffic for
everyone heard. And there were times when he had language that was that matched that, but he said that he wanted success to be his revenge, and that he wanted a success.
Timothy Carpenter, Charles Adam Robert,
that we're going to hear
Paul
something
Edward
along those
Nora,
lines
Tom
tonight.
Edward Robert, Timothy Jillian, John Ida Lincoln Lincoln Ida Adam Nora, 1-3 of 1986, 1-3 of 1986.
Is a decision, and decisions clear the way for harmony and peace. You know,
But listen, there are a lot of Thanksgiving tables that people are still going to have hard feelings after this election, more than any other election.
I have one of
And if you passing the Brussels sprouts is not going to be as easy. Thanksgiving Day, but this is a chance to move forward. Brett. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that one thing that can happen here, and it happened to Biden in my view.
It's fairly slow. We moved back to the west side to keep it in our line of view.
Moderate
But
deal-making
it's very light foot traffic and vehicle
yes,
traffic.
he's always followed sort of the drift of his party, but he
There's
worked
only
across the
a couple
aisle.
vehicles
Many
that can
senators
come
had
to
to
one of those
around him,
things.
so I thought
Yeah,
that would probably be the kind of president he was. And then something happened.
Doesn't predict you
Trump
for
went to Georgia and made a mess of that Senate. There was two Senate races down there, and the Democrats ended up with control of the Senate. At which point, old Biden started getting, his hysterical sugar plums dancing in his head, and went out for a very aggressive agenda.
Sure, there were articles
Copy
about
that.
FDR.
Let's move in for a stop.
The next
The
FDR.
next FDR, he's going to out Obama after that. Well, in my view,
If I want two more Jews to go to the South,
if the Republicans had maintained control of the Senate, first thing that wouldn't have happened was all that wild spending that led to the inflation, or led to a big part of the inflation. And Biden and the country would
There
have been better
appears to be
off.
a pedestrian
There's always
walking
a
up to the
danger
truck
in
now.
overreading your mandate. One wonders if Trump will be sober-minded about his.
I think that happened to Biden.
Yeah, but that guy's
Early on,
gonna
when
be
he said that he was going to be
associated.
returned to norms, and then the historians came in and said, no, you could be bigger than FDR. So he says, fine, okay, I'll spend all the money. Then they caused inflation, and now they
Of
end up
course,
with this
that guy
result.
is walking away
He
southbound,
has
correction,
said
northbound.
that this looks like new President Trump, if he gets to 270, which we expect he will fairly shortly. Yes, exactly. Has a moment to bring about the unity that people expected after the
He
last
is copy
election.
for hazard
Of
driver,
course,
921 Ventura, 921 Ventura. Neighbors are writing out. Neighbors writing out moped up and down the street, possibly red in color, and very loud. Control 2,
As far as calling states, there could be even more states that go Trump's way. This could be a massive landslide just by what we're looking at in the polls.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Count now project, though, Vice President Harris will win Minnesota, and her running mate Tim Walz serves as the state's governor there. That takes it up to 267 to 226. But again, Donald J. Trump will be the 47th president of the United States. More Democracy 24 special coverage next.
No traffic.
123 case number 50345,
If you have generalized myasthenia gravis, picture what life could look like with Vyvgart Hytrulo, a subcutaneous injection that takes about 30
to explode at Trump headquarters in West Palm Beach. We see thousands of people waiting, and we are about to hear from the next president of the United States. He will be 45 and 47, and we're waiting for him to join the room. We'll take you there, obviously, as soon as that gets underway. In the meantime, Grady Trimble is in Michigan. Let's get a quick update just outside of Detroit. Hi, Grady.
Hey, Martha, yeah, people were getting a little bit tired here, but then the call for Pennsylvania was like a jolt of electricity through this room at the Michigan GOP watch party. And the crowd started chanting USA. They started chanting Trump, 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 as it now appears he will be the 47th president of the United States. Now, in addition to Trump and the call for him in Pennsylvania, they're also excited about the possibility that Michigan could be the state that tips him over that magic 270 number. We're also following a very close Senate race here in Michigan, and they're feeling very confident about that as well. Republican candidate Mike Rogers looks like he could cruise to victory with the help of former President Trump. Democratic candidate Alyssa Slotkin, she went out to her crowd at her watch party at around 12:30 tonight and told them to go home and go to sleep. where here they extended this ballroom venue all through the night if they had to, and now it looks like the crowd is fired up as they await former President Trump taking the stage.
Okay, Grady, thank you. It is really important to point out how big the coattails could be tonight. Think about Bernie Moreno in Ohio. Was thought dead in the water against Sherrod Brown. He wins. We have right now at this hour, as Grady mentioned, Mike Rogers in Michigan.
We're not going to use this crash number. Can you assign a case number instead?
Hovde in Wisconsin, leading. Right now. Sam Brown in Nevada is closing in on Jackie Wilson. We're talking about historic numbers here. If all of these dominoes fall, you're talking about a Senate that could be 54-46, 55-45. That wasn't in the cards. That wasn't on anybody's bingo card when you came into election night.
But these candidates have all fought really strong races, and they have all closed in a very strong way. And in fact, many of them were sort of pulling into +5, +6 in just over the last 3 weeks. So it's a fascinating part of the story. Hopefully, we'll be able to call some more of those soon.
Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says with these coattails, you could see the House going Republican as well, and that would be a part of this story as well. Let's go back out to Trace Gallagher on the West Coast with his panel. Hey, Trace.
Brett, thank you. Martha, thank you as well. We've got our panel, Steve Hilton, Jody Armour, Katie McGee White, and John Caldwell. You're talking to your panel, Brett and Martha, and we were talking to ours, and Katie McGee White was struck by the whole concept that, again, Trump was undercounted.
This is the third consecutive polling miss in a presidential cycle for Donald Trump, and we really need to be asking ourselves, why do they keep getting it wrong? And at this point, it is a choice. Back in 2016, you could argue that you were blindsided. You didn't expect it. You cannot say that anymore. This was predictable from the very start. And I think the reason they keep getting it wrong is because they still don't understand the average Trump voter. They cannot wrap their heads around why so many people support him. And it's because for a long time, actually for the past decade or so, Democrats in power didn't think they needed to. And even worse, they didn't want to. They didn't want to have to stoop down to understand the concerns over immigration, over the economy. And guess what? The American people sent a very clear message tonight that you better start paying attention, and you better start paying attention soon.
We heard a lot of words, demographic. I don't know how many times we heard it, Steve Hilton, but Gianni, you talk about black voters, black male voters especially. We heard it again and again tonight, and you think it's worth talking about.
I think this is a historic night. Black men will now, those who voted for Trump will be counted as those who helped save America from further decline. I mean, Kamala Harris has tried her best to create these accents like, you better not, you remember all of these things that she's done to try to appeal to this community, even going on Oprah Winfrey's talk show or whatever that was, to say, oh, I'll pull out my gun and shoot someone that tries to come into my house. I mean, this it's become nonsensical to the point that I don't know if we're looking at Medea runs for president or not. I mean, this is outstanding what has happened from the black male perspective, and I hope the Republican Party takes note.
Yeah, and you talk about young males and younger voters, Jody Armour. You're a law professor at the University of Southern California. You know what young people are geared into. Are you surprised when you see these voter analysis numbers? The young voters came out heavy for Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, young voters can sniff out a fraud. They can sniff out somebody who's chameleon-like. She changes her position according to the prevailing winds. They didn't like that. Many across the country, young students said, for me, a red line also is mass atrocities, is collective punishment, is what I see going on in the Middle East, and I see us as complicit in. So they, were saying, I'm not just that enthusiastic. Yeah, I'm not going to get out.
I got 15 seconds for you, Steve.
I just think when I see this unfold, Trace, it is just a massive victory.
Oh, we got to jump back. Sorry, guys, back to you. We got to jump.
Trace, thank you. The Fox News decision desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
The former president's comeback will be complete with a win in Wisconsin, a state that he never won 4 years ago. He is now the second president in U.S. history to win non-consecutive terms. The first was Grover Cleveland in the late 1800s. Senator J.D. Vance will become the 50th vice president of the United States. Voters expressed deep frustration with the Biden administration and former President Trump and the future President Trump overperformed in urban areas, particularly with men, proving that the strategy that they doubled and tripled down on over the course of the last few months absolutely succeeded and brought him back to the White House.
47th President of the United States, former President Trump now defeats Vice President Kamala Harris, who entered this race just over 100 days ago. And for Democrats, they were projecting the possibility of running the tape.
I have several
David Plouffe with the Democratic campaign of Harris campaign suggested that just yesterday. Now it is possible that Donald Trump runs the table with these states and builds on a big landslide electoral win. We don't know where the popular vote is going to finish out, but we do know that he will be going back to the White House, and with him, Brit Hume, will be a lot of changes because he will have been there once and will know what he wants to do.
You know, he also counts for the fact that he had so much turnover in his first term as president. By the time he really know Washington. It was a new this realm that he had come to win the presidency, and he promises us that now he knows who he wants to hire, now he knows the kind of people he wants to have around him. A lot of people are saying that means a lot of very experienced people around Washington will be ruled out, and maybe they will. But it's going to be very interesting to see the kind of people he reaches out to and reaches out for in his days and weeks ahead as he builds his administration.
We're joined by Kayleigh McEnany and Trey Gowdy and Katie Pavlich. Kayleigh, you've been part of the last administration. You've seen you can see the joy in all these people's faces. Think about the
backpack with gloves.
All that this campaign has been through.
Some type of ski mask.
Now there is the prospect of creating what you want to create in a second administration. Your thoughts, 30,000 feet of this win.
Indictments, 2 assassination attempts, an unlikely come-from-behind victory, and history is made tonight. This is a huge moment, particularly because this is a tectonic shift of the Republican Party. The sex of polling is true. You now have black voters, Latino voters, young voters coming in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time. Former President now, soon to be current President Trump. And I just want to say this as we wait for him to come out. I remember having a conversation with Ivanka Trump in 2016 about his remarks. And before he went out to give those remarks, he had speech A and speech B. Speech A was a more boisterous Trumpian speech. Speech B was a speech full of unity. And he looked up, Ivanka said, saw the faces of crying Hillary voters. He ripped up the boisterous speech and said he wanted to heal the nation. And the first words he said were an appreciation for Hillary Clinton, for her service to our country. And then he said, now it is time for America to bind the wounds of division. He said, we are a party of all races, creeds, and religions. That is more true tonight than it was 8 years ago. And I fully expect President Trump right now is maybe ripping up that more boisterous speech and preparing to unite the country.
It's an amazing message.
You should have been. We're going to get you to see here in a minute. Trey Gowdy said something on your show the other day about how one of the things that you hope also is they're a little more prepared this time. They've got a great transition team, and they're going to need it. And I hope that there are a lot of people who want to go in and be helpful.
Our people advising is going to be on the Alameda side. There was a male screaming. It's just 2 of the lots in an empty building that the male got quiet. But now there's a different noise and birds flying out of the trees. Second call to location.
Not anything like what his detractors have described him as being now that he is liberal. If I'm wrong, you can hold me to that. But I think he will. A liberated Donald Trump is going to shock his detractors.
He has said that the assassination attempts had an impact on him. We saw him in many ways return to the very rough and tumble style that we've seen in Donald Trump towards the end of this. But now he will take the stage tonight as the next president of the United States, and he will not be able to run again. And I think that is another liberating factor potentially for President Trump.
We'll never underestimate the power of unfinished business. This is a president who was caught lightning in a bottle twice, and the second time around, he now has a MAGA mandate. He'll have a Senate that he can use to push through his cabinet appointees, who can work with him on legislation, who could potentially replace a number of justices on the Supreme Court. He could build a wall. He could build a wall. He has a working group in Washington, D.C. We'll see what happens with the House, but he also has been working very hard on his transition, get the right people around him. He talks about the lessons he's learned about the first time in the White House. So this is a mandate tonight for him, and I think we should get a lot of credit for doing the work on the ground, going to these states to pull these Senate candidates across the line with them.
Brady, what do you think the analysis is going to be? There's going to be a lot of time to digest all of this. We'll focus now on what the president, incoming president, is going to say. What do you think the analysis is going to be on the Democratic Party and
Well, I think it's going to be agonizing.
Shot suspect seen at 438 Ohio, 438 Ohio.
Consensus to form about what the party needs to do next, or what it did wrong this time. It'll be grudging at first. One can certainly imagine that the party was smart and shrewd.
No, it doesn't describe for the suspect seen as argue dividing people outside shootings. They can see them. No description.
Think of the issue sets that they're trying to run on against this man that failed. They need to reconsider all of them. I think it'll take a while. Now, a colleague and friend Mark Halpern, who's been very astute this particular cycle, he thinks there's going to be 11 streets. People
Get on the ground, driver, get on the ground.
Be hysterical.
Face down. Get the passenger out.
I am really looking forward to reading some of the stories, probably with a lot of anonymous sources amongst Democrats with the recriminations, and it's going to be fast and furious. And we will have people saying that Joe Biden should have dropped out the day after, not dropped out, but said he was not running for re-election on the day after that midterm in 2022, and either endorsed her or said, let there be a primary, and Dr. Joe Biden thoughts about her, and I wonder how chilly that White House is going to be for the next 90 days as they try to figure it out.
And let me just say that as Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris will certify the election results on January 6th.
Delta 310 Austria, Delta 320, Leopard and Catwell, Leopard and
Our country is organized, and it's a great education, I think, for people who have very high passions in this race. There are Democrats who were fervently for Joe Biden. He performed poorly during a debate, and the party switched to Kamala Harris. And it was genuine excitement, I think, built over a period of time. And some of that excitement was
confirming the second charge was 2.
A dislike and a disdain for Donald Trump. But I hope it's a moment that we can all
like there was background noise.
because if we don't, not in a selfish person way, Democrats
at 1944. Want to be able to keep Victor King Robert 159. Victor King Robert 4159.
I was reminded of your words, and reminded of what you said as you shared it. I remember that story, and I was hoping for the country tonight that President Trump was every right to be joyful, every right to celebrate. We'll give a speech with that tone tonight that in many ways could help him do all the things that he campaigned on in this campaign.
What does this mean for the never Republican and the Lincoln Project people, Bill Kristol and people like that who seem to abandon everything they never previously believed?
We'll get to the Never Trumpers soon enough, and the hundreds of millions of dollars wasted on them. Look, Donald Trump won this on policy and personality. I don't want to be remiss here. He is talking about energy independence, manufacturing, an economy where everybody is working, no new foreign wars, getting out of the entire. Friends, we don't get those policies without that personality.
Confirmation 10 minutes for breathing problems, CSC 1007, 1007, 4545 Bernardino, 4545 Bernardino, she working outside dispatch at 1256.
Without that. But I want to say this, it's on this phone, And Huma Abedin placed the call 2:30 a.m. on November 9th, 2016. And on the other line was Secretary Clinton to concede the race to Donald Trump on my phone.
Delta 365, Delta
I
370.
said to Vice President-elect Mike Pence, make sure Hillary actually concedes.
Just be advised that the RP gate, the address 438 Ohio, but wrap it up is showing her at 713 Ohio.
I was there to see it myself. And then something just changed. The Washington Post said, let's impeach him at noon, 2 minutes after he's inaugurated. Melania wrote about this in her book. So, Harold, I hear you. I hope everybody can unify. But I got to tell you, my friend, I think it starts with your party and not mine.
Fair enough.
They had this guy in a courtroom. He's not an indoor cat. I get it. They have him in the courtroom. They have him impeached. They have him, and whether people think that was justified or not, now is a good time to respect the will of the people. Forget about us, the will of the people.
I agree. I'm just saying be a gracious winner and let's move the country forward. I agree. And I know you will. That was my only point.
Gracious winner today when I talked to him, I really did. He's known for a while. I wrote a piece on FoxNews.com October 11th saying he's going to have a narrow landslide. I think he's felt that for a while. But he wanted to go and earn it.
And I even think the people around him have to be gracious too. I think he will. I don't know as well as you can be gracious as well.
We can always hope.
No, that comes from the top.
I just want to say how much money was spent on this election. $15.9 billion.
3600-4346. 3600-4346.
It's been spent on every race, presidency, the whole deal. $16 billion. And here we are.
What is it, a check you can write to every American? What is it? About $50. So if not $40, $50.
But I just want to say, the presidential race has a medium. You know, you go back to television, cable. This was, in some ways, a podcast experience of a campaign. And those are free to go on podcasts. How much of that money really needed to be spent, but there's a lot of ways to reach people. But I think it's really interesting. It's something we'll be talking about a lot in terms of
El Jose Cardenas Alcambritos eligible class sergeant 2025 clear. Able returning insurance from Trump for 2019. People fighting color registration 7 reliable 5
The assassination attempt and the fist in the air, the iconic image, and the fight.
Absolutely. Warrior president.
Yeah, toughest son of a gun we ever saw. That was the last time we seeing that ad. And I think for whatever you think of the guy, you got to admire him. I mean, the adversity he's faced, everything we've seen in other presidencies and other political figures who've gone through all kinds of trouble. A pale in comparison to what he could put in. Maybe it's time for his enemies to stop it.
Not only that, but the energy that he has is truly amazing. It's the Energizing Bunny. Let's check in with Aisha Housing. Speaking of the Energizing Bunny, in West Palm. Aisha, this has been a big night all night long.
For the comments.
A big night, Brett, Martha, a long campaign for the former president, for all of us, the press corps that have been following
went by, went in the wrong direction. There's 2 lots of empty buildings. The mail got quiet and now here's a different noise and birds flying from the tree.
People were hugging each other, they were high-fiving.
Yeah, there was no noise over there. And I drove around Alameda, I drove around 10th Street, I drove around Elizabeth, Moody, and McKenzie.
Days and days. We are now awaiting the former president to take the podium. He is here in the building, as is his running mate, now Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. They're backstage. We were told they were going to come out as soon as the election was
I was driving around that area.
And so now we're just waiting. We asked for a 2-minute warning. I don't know if we're going to get one, but hopefully we will see him soon. And so I just want to add a little bit of perspective, just as a Capitol Hill reporter that's been covering the former president for a while. When I came to Congress 3 years ago, talked privately with many powerful Republicans who did not want to see the former president back in Washington, and then to see the legal battles that he went through, and Republicans having to stand up for him,
It's possibly a maroon Camaro. Sometimes the vehicle is blacked out. Control 1 and 2, 101.
Washington in the spring, and went to the RNC and claimed the nomination. This is the greatest comeback that I've ever witnessed personally myself. And so I
4617.
what he says to the country here tonight and to his supporters. Back to you.
643 said that you were going to be coming over here to assist me. Do you have an ETA?
And that will be her response to
Ingleside
the election results. That's all we have from the Harris team, which is really strange. I mean, from a PR perspective, Dan.
I also just think it's a shame because I remember when John Kerry did this to George W. Bush in 2004, and you worked so hard, and I know that they're disappointed, but you should concede and let your opponent have their election night. And let them, everybody that's there at Trump, at Mar-a-Lago, where are they? They're in Palm Beach. At the convention center. Like, let them have their moment without anyone. Like, I remember Andy Card had to come in and say, well, yes, we know we won, but we have to wait
Yeah,
until
if you reference that DV, can you check for the other parts? It might have been out there.
and wait, and you don't get that moment. I don't think it's right.
Right, we're getting a fireworks call for 609, Louisiana.
If there's a phone call, they have to make it public. And then nobody needs to hear from her. So if I were her, I would do it tonight.
I mean, that whole setup and that's all the people were already there. Everybody was there, and it does feel like you want to just collect the moment and do it the way that
They were holding out hope that the blue wall could somehow come together, but it's going to be a red wall.
90 minutes before that, they were told to go to bed.
I got the text.
90 minutes before all of this, Jen O'Malley Dillon, the
Unit number 119.
everyone can go to bed and come back tomorrow.
I was asking for the other call too.
We want her to call President Trump. She didn't talk to the people who were assembled there for hours for her. It just seems very ungracious. By the way, it ended up being a very bad split screen. You probably couldn't see it here, but they're filing out, and he's expanding his votes, and they're all excited for him. Look, I think that Kamala Harris is a sign of the times, but I think that Trump's a metaphor for the country. And when fight, we get back up. I just think he's. I think that's the other thing I just want to say. Maybe it's as a Catholic, maybe it's just as a Trump supporter, maybe it's just as a flawed human being. We all get second chances in this life. Rarely do we get a second chance as big as this one. And I want to believe the man that I know and the candidate is going to work with a certain alacrity and energy to get things done very quickly.
Show me out of the
What he did through executive order, what he could do with the Congress, bringing in the governors. Nobody gets a second chance this big in their lives and just puts it on the shelf like it's a trophy or a gold star. He's going to use that as a platform for good and undo some of these bad policies, and I think do even better. You know, these celebrities, these athletes, he's got job creators and innovators. He's got he's got people who make stuff, who people say, wow, there's an American success story, and he's going to bring them aboard.
So Vice President Harris has now encountered what is known as the Van Buren curse. It's the failure of the Vice President to get to the presidency. Only two have done it, and that is Mark Van Buren in 1836 and George H.W. Bush in 1988. You know, the question is, what the Republican Party looks like now. And
You have a document available? We're going to have to do a physical hold on for
it's working class, and maybe it's the future. I mean, it's Elon Musk. It is Joe Rogan podcast. It is, you know, there's an opportunity here on both parties to realign and change.
There are going to be a lot of conversations that go on to that end. Who is the next standard bearer? Is it J.D. Vance? Is he the one who
Hey, is the record out there yet or no?
4-year legacy-defining term with the success that Kellyanne's describing? Is it J.D. Vance that picks it up? There's going to be a conversation about ground game. I mean, Kamala Harris over the weekend, they were saying they were knocking 1,000 doors a minute, and I have no reason to doubt that. It was an extraordinary ground game, but do ground games matter as much as podcasts? As much as real, authentic, viral moments like President Trump on the garbage truck, or President Trump at
For the record, all that you need to do, and don't wait for him. If you need to just hand it off, have him sign, head this way.
Look like going forward. It's a broad coalition. It's an exciting coalition, and I think if President Trump manifests that working man agenda, no tax on tips, no limit on credit card interest rate, that's a working man's economic agenda. And if he makes that happen in 4 years, this is going to look like this for quite some time.
You know, I'm struck when you're talking about the authenticity part of this, because when I think about him with the French fries at McDonald's and standing up with blood on his face, fight, you can't fabricate consultant can create those moments, Trey. Those are organic and they are authentic. And I think that that is something that Kamala Harris fell really far short on in terms of the authenticity.
RT5 for the Ramona and Yale City. RT5 20 shots heard in the area. No other information.
I would have questioned that. To my friend, the gentleman from Tennessee, autopsies are painful, especially when the patient's still alive. I wonder what the Democrat Party is going to go through in the next weeks and months, because this was a loss that I don't think anyone saw coming, not to this magnitude. So what does the autopsy look like if you're a Democrat? It's painful, but you have to have one.
Frank Lincoln 236, Adam X-ray, red
Air switching to 1. We'll be about.
Joe Biden had clung and hidden, clung to the job, clung to the nomination, and hidden these conditions with a lot of help. They could have had an open and nominating process and gotten a more attractive nominee. They would have been freer to walk away from Biden policies and would have had a better shot. I mean, I think that's the easiest, simplest solution. I'm not sure that's where they'll go, but
I don't think you can pass over an African-American female, which is a very loyal constituency for the Democratic Party. I don't see how you can pass over.
But if he left the office and she'd run, she would have been put through a different process and would have had competition, and the whole thing would have been different.
But Harold, you have a Democratic Party that's pretty loyal. I mean, you have Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden.
You got Andy Beshear, you got Josh Shapiro, you got
That's a different kind of Democrat, and that is not the progressive Democrat that wins in a primary. So is it going to be a change in your party?
We elected, you nominated Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, who were not from the Democratic Party, so I think we'll do that. Look, tonight, what happened this evening and what's happened over the last year has been described. There were those on this panel who didn't believe that this resurrection could have occurred. So this can happen. Things are possible in politics if you're willing to change, if you're willing to have courage and determination. And what every Democrat today wants to say about this guy who's been elected our president, he personifies that courage and determination and persistence. So I think Troy, you were asking a serious question.
Delta 45 already, and Delta 430, 10-4.
And we've got to look long and hard about whether or not the way we campaign sometimes, what that did at the end, is that the right way to do it? But before we get there, we've got to purpose and a message. And we'll get there. We've got a long history. We'll figure these things out.
That's track 9-4, Delta 430, copy dirt.
So the Carnage speech got a lot of attention at the inauguration. Do we think that this speech, we're actually told that the teleprompters have been removed from the stage, so we could be in for a long
Where you go, one shot.
What do you think? We know he's got one, but there may Right. So, Dana, what does this speech look like?
This one right now. I think you look. He's one of the most unpredictable people too. So I think that's why we're all here. I'm wide awake, and I've been awake for almost 24 hours now. And I am curious to see. I think I wasn't necessarily just thinking about this speech. I'm thinking about the inauguration speech, which would be 8 years since Carnage speech. He has a wide range of the types of speeches that he can give. If you think even within a speech, there's range. If you think about the RNC convention, it started off with like, oh wow, yeah, and then after a while, like, wow, he's still talking. It was like so long, and it kind of got off script, and people thought, oh, we lost opportunity. But he didn't. I think if you look at these people who would take off work, drive somewhere in the middle of the night to go and get in line to wait for hours, to then stay at a rally for hours.
31 move. I'm going to go switch with 37, so you can go back there and you can always search for female, and I'll do what you do.
I'm not the crazy one. I'm not the only one who thinks the way that I do. I can actually have friends, and that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be outreach to the other side. I believe in love thy neighbor. I love all of that. But he has created something special here, so I kind of want him to take a victory lap tonight. I don't think this is necessarily the moment for unity, especially when she won't even concede and give him the night to celebrate.
Kellyanne, you were looking at the popular vote. He's still up.
East 3301, location 2910 Buford, outside Belmont Apartments, Marco Fire Dispatch 112.
Counties in Pennsylvania. He was going to win them by significant double digits, but he won them that much more. I think running up the totals in Florida, which was a swing state not that long ago, over 1.1 million votes or so. Haley, right, your home state. And this is, look, I think that when the Democrats take a look at this candidacy,
Take care of them.
we were all looking at the same.
Good.
She has on just a black nose, no shoes,